how come we can't say life begins at conception and it continues developing? Because guess what? I'm still developing. I bet you are too. And we're going to continue developing until we die. That's the course of what a natural clump of cells does. We start off as a single cell, we keep growing, we become a clump of cells, and then we stay a clump of cells for the rest of our lives. And we're walking around. I'm a clump of cells, you're a clump of cells. We're all clumps of cells walking around. And we're organic. Now they're talking about making fake people. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why. And you know what it reminds me of? Lord of the Rings and the Orcs. That's what they were. They were created by Sauron, the White Hand, and they were birthed in this grotesque mud and you know, like just, you know, they were not. Here's the interesting thing. My son actually observed when he read the book. He said they don't have a soul. They're just created. They're like Frankenstein. They're zombies. They're orcs. They're evil, and they can be because they have no soul.
You want to talk about the acceleration of things that are happening in California, but I just have to hit these other articles that I saw today and get your thoughts on these. So I saw this article from the National Pulse, and its headline is "Synthetic Embryo with Brain and Heart Formed Without Using Eggs or Sperm." And it goes on to explain that they made this with a brain and a beating heart. Was developed by researchers using mouse stem cells. It says the team developed the embryo model without using any eggs or sperm. And then it says the findings, which took researchers over a decade of work, could potentially be useful in understanding why some pregnancies fail, along with developing synthetic organs for patients awaiting transplants. So the thing that stuck out to me is here I am talking about all these efforts to end life and to stop like anything from even forming. But they're like, we're going to spend a decade to figure out how we can make this happen without eggs or sperm. I mean, can you make sense of this?
Thanks again for having me on. I really appreciate it, Christy. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Yes, you've actually hit the nail right on the head. They are trying to figure out a way to create a product, a fake human. That's a Frankenstein mouse. That's a fake mouse. That's what they're making, right? But that's all in a test tube. That's under controlled circumstances. They don't want organic human beings conceived naturally. They're trying to exterminate that population and control those little carbon footprints, aren't they? That's why the big push for abortion. Abortion is one of the forms of population control. Let's face it, that's how Margaret Sanger sold her eugenics program that was referred to the Negro Project. Those are her words. She marketed it to black pastors to try to convince black populations to go in with abortion and contraception. It has always been about population, and I'm not surprised that they're now trying to mix up in a test tube. Look, we got fake beef, right? You grow beef somewhere. I guess is Bill Gates involved with that? We got to have fake beef. We're gonna have fake mice. We're gonna have fake everything.
Transhumanist. I mean, I was just talking about a Disney cartoon where they're talking about demons and Antichrist children. And then I'm reading this article like right after I read the other one about how they want to basically create a human without eggs or sperm. It's so crazy, but it's also very telling because I know that you're a believer like me. And when you fight against and you make a mockery of God's creation, and when you fight against truth, you end up tying yourself up in knots and contradict yourself, because another sentence in this article was very telling. It says in 2019, Science Alert reported on a lab-made human embryo wherein they suggested animal models can only go so far when it comes to pulling apart the complex mix of genetic and biochemical activity that turns a fertilized cell into a fully formed human. What? I thought that didn't happen. I thought they weren't fully human or a human until like they were out of the body. But this science article said, you know, this is hard to do, to recreate and make something into a fully formed human. So they constantly contradicting themselves. Like, how do you not go mad?
Look, that's what women do every day. We create new human life. We participate in natural law, right? In God's creation. And we can do that naturally. We don't have to go to a test tube or anything. We can do that. That's the power of creation, right? They're trying to make fake people. I think it's very interesting, though, what you've just cited. It proves that development is the key. for human life, right? They're trying to say, well, if we can just develop it and fully form it and then grow it through, and then it comes out the other side. It's like, if you haven't seen Choice for Two, it's a great website out of Canada. And she's got a great video, which is the magic, the birth canal. It's not a baby, it's a baby. It's not a baby, it's a baby. Choice for Two is spot on with this. They've just now admitted it's about development. We know that when human life starts, it's at conception. That genetic code is fixed at conception. That's what they're trying to do with the fake mice, right? They're trying to create an embryo without having to use sperm and egg. So that's a fake creation, and then it develops. So how come we can't say life begins at conception and it continues developing? Because guess what? I'm still developing. I bet you are too. And we're going to continue developing until we die. That's the course of what a natural clump of cells does. We start off as a single cell. We keep growing. We become a clump of cells. And then we stay a clump of cells for the rest of our lives. And we're walking around. I'm a clump of cells. You're a clump of cells. We're all clumps of cells walking around. And we're organic. Now they're talking about making fake people. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why. And you know what it reminds me of? Lord of the Rings and the Orcs. That's what they were. They were created by Sauron, the White Hand, and they were birthed in this grotesque mud and they were not. Here's the interesting thing. My son actually observed when he read the book. He said they don't have a soul. They're just created. They're like Frankenstein. They're zombies. They're orcs. They're evil, and they can be because they have no soul. And that's what they're doing with these mice. And look, we've got the CRISPR technology. Wasn't there a scientist in China who actually used the CRISPR technology, which is a gene editing, very precise editing tool, I believe, using lasers? I could be wrong about that, but it's very precise editing. And he was actually able to make clone a human embryo and use the CRISPR technique to edit the DNA strand. And there was a set of female twins born in China. So we already have an edited human being already in China somewhere. I think he was lost to history. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him, but I don't think he's around anymore. So, but that CRISPR technology for editing genes already work. Now we're starting to see this in, as you've just pointed out, a mouse that it has not been created from organic material, but has been grown and cloned like the fake meat in a lab. Now we're going to have fake people. And why are we doing this? Again, if they're population myth is true, right? Because they keep selling us remember Paul Ehrlich, the population bomb? That was a word that goes back to John Malthus, right? They have been pushing population control as a way to save Mother Earth, right? The latest iteration is climate change. It used to be called global warming, and then it was global cooling, and now we've rebranded it again. It's climate change, and we all have to reduce our carbon footprint to save Mother Earth. Right? That's the mantra now that's justifying the control of human beings, population control, food control, the power control, and birth control, population fertility control. We are depopulating the earth here. And so they're pushing abortion. They're selling it. That's what the abortion cartel does. They're selling it as healthcare, which is a lie. And yet in a lab, we are trying to experiment with how we can create life. And if it works on a mouse embryo, it can work on a human embryo in time. So now we're just maybe years, maybe a decade away from creating fake people, orcs, in other words, people with genetic codes that have now been controlled and managed by science.
I think it's also in this article, I feel like they try and hide one of the other goals that they have. It says that over a decade of work could potentially be useful in understanding why some pregnancies fail. And then it says, along with developing synthetic organs for patients awaiting transplants. So if there is even this threat that abortions will go down because of maybe perhaps tightening restrictions, they still need to keep their organ manufacturing up, because we know that's what they were doing with aborted fetuses.
That's right. And we'll know. See, now we're getting very close to the matrix. What's going to stop them from just growing these fake humans, right, for their organs and keeping them in some sort of suspended animation somewhere, and so that we can harvest their organs? I mean, look, China does this with real people. They just grab people off the street, take out their kidneys, and let them die. I mean, we know this happens in the CCP world. We know this. So how long are we going to be able to grow people and then be able to harvest their organs.
It sure does seem like they continue. Yeah, they just continue to try and make people apathetic about life in general and not appreciate God's creation.